Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for the final Have Your Say video for this series. And this is for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18, the finale. So today we're going to be going through the finale episode, recapping what happened, going through the results of the final Have Your Say poll where you voted on if you agreed with the outcome of the season and the finale. And I'll be talking about a little bit of recent drama to do with Myki Meeks responding to the backlash of her win. And Myki also spilled some behind the scenes tea about how the finale was filmed. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Okay, so let's start by recapping the finale. Now, I know some of the people in the comments did say, are we not going to respond to the looks, the finale looks? I kind of forgot, but also just didn't really have time to do it. So yes, there are some amazing looks. I feel like everyone actually looked great, so I'm not as worried about talking about that because I want to try and get through this a bit quicker because there's a lot to get through, obviously. So let's just say everyone looked great, a bit like me.
Liza Minnelli, lies.
But obviously the top three are Myki Meeks, Darlene Mitchell, and Nene Coco. As has been the tradition for the last couple of seasons, it's filmed on set on the main stage rather than a big theatre, which I think is a bit of a shame. There are some reasons behind that or some theories as to why, but I'll talk about that at the end of the video because Myki talked a little bit about this. And as has become tradition, the final three are going to do a performance, and they actually did sing on it, not live, but it is their vocals, which I think I do prefer that to then just having a random backing track done by someone else. But before we get into that, there was that performance by RuPaul, which I always thought was actually quite fun. I love when RuPaul just does these random performances, clearly for her own amusement. If you've watched my Scorpios recap that I did recently, Vita Von T Star said that this was filmed separately. None of the queens saw this. This was filmed before the queens even came to set, which I think is kind of funny because they did then intersperse these shots of the crowd cheering, but apparently that was the cheering for the queens later on, but they just took that and put it in RuPaul's performance, which I think is actually kind of funny, to be honest. Okay, so let's get into the actual final three performances. First up was Darlene Mitchell. I thought Darlene's had a fun concept. Obviously, at the beginning, it was more kind of almost like a gospel choir with the church over, and then she ripped it off, and then underneath it was more like trashy girl, which is very much her vibe. The actual look is really cute. It was very Darlene. I do think out of the final three performances, hers was maybe my least favorite because I think although I do love Darlene and she's so likable and everything, I do think her song had the least impact in a lot of ways. It was very much her, but I do think that the other two did a better job, but it was still good. So I probably would give it a just okay towards a yay. And in the Have Your Say poll, I think you agreed because it was 46% for just okay. Not that far behind was yay with 42.2, but I agree. I think it was just okay towards yay. And then nay got 11.7%. Okay, so moving on to the second performance, and that was Myki Meeks. I really enjoyed Myki's. I think it very much fit her persona, and I think she got to show off her voice, which is amazing. She's such a good singer. Obviously, it was very much leaning into, I'm the ingenue, I'm this person, and found my voice, because that very much led on from the Rusical, where she also did well. I feel like this was kind of a continuation of her Fanny character, but just an elevated version. I think out of all the three, hers was maybe the most on point in terms of they were so polished and it was very much her, but I guess it was slightly expected in the sense that that's what I thought Myki would do. So I did like it, but maybe it wasn't as sort of mind-blowing as what I thought it could have been, because we've seen some final three performances over the years that were really good and completely crazy. This wasn't that, but it was certainly good. I would give it a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, you agreed 67.2% for yay, 29.5% for just okay. So still over a quarter, almost a third actually, sort of.
I didn't go to school for math.
For just okay, and then 3.2% for nay. And finally, we have Nene Coco. I loved Nene so much. By far, hers was the best, not even close. That bit at the beginning with like the stamping and they were all moving, that is so, I couldn't even pretend to try and do that. Like, I'm so uncoordinated, I can barely walk up the stairs without falling over. And the fact that she got up and she was dancing, that was on point. I don't know how long they had to do this, probably not very long. The fact that she nailed it, the vocals were great. Also, her song was just way better than everyone else's. And the songs are probably written for them, well, by Leland, they did say. And I feel like Leland kind of gave Nene the best one, and then the other two got the slightly worse one, in my opinion. Nene absolutely killed this, so I loved it so much. This, I think, is definitely going to go down in history as one of the best finale performances. This is up there with some of the ones we've seen. So obviously, it's a yay for me. In the Have Your Say poll, I think, I will have to get this certified, but I think the result is yay, 87.9%. So just a few. 10.4% of you said just okay for some reason. And then I just like to think that's like one random person. 1.7% of you said nay. I don't know what you were watching, but clearly you were watching someone else's performance. So I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, whose finale performance gets a slay, as in the best performance? And you voted 70.3% for Nene Coco, so an absolute landslide, 19.7% for Myki Meeks, and 10% for Darlene Mitchell. So even if you added up Darlene and Myki's, it doesn't even come close to what Nene got. And I 100% agree. I feel like they need to call the police because that was a daylight robbery. Nene came in and she absolutely stole the limelight from every single one of them. She was amazing. Definitely she gets the slay. We also find out the guest for the finale, and the one getting the Giving Us Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Miley Cyrus. I thought that was really cool. I love Miley. Obviously, she's been on the show before. I did think she was going to perform. That's the only thing, and she didn't. So it would have been cool if she had performed, but, you know, I will take any Miley that we can get. Okay, so we then move on to the Miss Congeniality vote, and obviously, from what we can see, I don't think the top three are eligible because only the eliminated queens come back on stage. And we find out the winner is Jane Don't. In the Have Your Say poll, I said, who would you vote for Miss Congeniality? And you said 41.3% for Jane Don't, so you clearly agreed. Then it was Mia Starr with 13.4%. Then it was Vita Von T Starr with 11.2%. And then in fourth place was Mandy Mango with 10.4%. This was quite a difficult one for me because I can see why Jane won. I think, if we're honest, it was more like a consolation prize because people think that she should have won the whole season, but she got eliminated and it was kind of unfair. So I do wonder if that came into it. Obviously, it's the queens voting for this, not the public. And I think a lot of the queens probably felt the same way, that Jane deserved it. Was she the most congenial? She was congenial, but I do, if it was up to me, I personally probably would have given it to someone like Mandy Mango or maybe Mia or Vita, because I feel like they genuinely were really sweet and nice. Not that Jane wasn't, but a lot of the queens did say that Jane helped people a lot, that it just wasn't shown on camera. So maybe that's got something to do with it. There is a little bit of tea about this later on, so I'll talk about that at the end of the video. There was also this bit where they mentioned that the winner gets a makeup palette collaboration with Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I actually saw something kind of interesting that the Pressed conference with Amanda and Neru mentioned. And they said that you could kind of tell who was going to win the season.
Drag Race, they gave away the winner halfway through the episode and no one even noticed.
How?
Right here we have our ABH segment, Anastasia Beverly Hills. Norvina comes to the studio and she's like, okay, everybody, let's put together our palettes. We see Darlene Mitchell. We see this color palette of some blues, orange, and a brown. We see Nene Coco with her sunset arrangement. And then I realized, going through these screenshots, they never showed any of the shades for Myki Meeks. And that makes sense from a business standpoint, because they don't want to give away the colors that are going to be in this palette.
Or the colors that she picked there are not the ones that they're putting out.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God, how did I not see that?
We need jobs, people. This is why we need jobs.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I thought that was quite an interesting observation. Also, can I just say, I hate the bit where they do the bit of what would you say to your younger self and they show it on screen. I always find it so cringe. And I know about cringe. I am the cringe queen after all.
That is correct.
But yeah, I really wish they would stop doing. I know it's sweet, but I find it so intolerable. So let me know in the comments if you agree or if I'm just being a hating ass bitch, as always.
You are a mean girl. You're a bitch.
So the reigning queen, last year's winner, Anya Nerve, is back to pass over the torch. She looks amazing, by the way. I love this outfit so much. And it's now time to whittle it down from a final 3 to a final 2. And we find out that Darlene, unfortunately, does not make it through to the top 2, so it's now going to be Nene and Myki. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the top 2? You said 68.6% for yes and 31.4% for no. So for that around third of you that did say no, I said, who do you think should have been the top 2? And you said Darlene and Myki, so those would have been your top 2. And Darlene actually got the most amount of votes. Although I love Darlene, and I do guess she had a better track record in a sense of she never landed in the bottom, I do think that Myki, from a whole of the season standpoint, deserved the win the most. And then Nene, I think, had the best performance. So I do agree they should have been the top two, unfortunately, although I do love Darlene. So the final two, Myki and Nene, then lip synced to the song Every Girl You've Ever Loved by Miley Cyrus, of course. And RuPaul then announced the winner of season 18 is Myki Meeks. So congratulations to Myki Meeks, our current reigning queen. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the final lip sync in your opinion? It was very split, but Myki Meeks did come out on top with 53.8%, and then Nene Coco got 46.2%. And on a slightly related note, the next question was, who do you think deserved to win the season the most out of the top three? And Myki Meeks again came out on top with a staggering 70.1%, then it was Darlene Mitchell with 18.4%, and then Nene Coco with 11.6%. Now, I do have a slightly, I don't know if it's controversial, but I don't know if everyone's going to agree with this. I actually think that Nene won the lip sync and she had the best performance. So if this was based purely on the finale, for me, it would 100% be Nene. But I don't think you can look at it that way because otherwise it sort of discounts everything that they've done throughout the season. So I do agree with Myki winning overall. I think it was kind of predetermined from the last few episodes. There was no way the other two were going to win, in my opinion. But I do think if we were basing it purely on what we saw in this episode, Nene should have won. But let me know in the comments if you agree with that, because a lot of people did say that they thought Myki won the lip sync, just about, but it was pretty split. I think it wasn't even close. I think Nene won it. I loved the little puppet thing she had. She had more gags and everything. Myki also did amazing, don't get me wrong. I loved the hat. That outfit is amazing. But I do think Nene definitely won the lip sync, but Myki won the season. And the final question is, rate the season in terms of how much you enjoyed the season. So 1 to 5 stars, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. Overall, the average rating was 3.28, so kind of in the middle. And if we look at the bar chart, we can see that 3 stars got the most votes with around 44% of the vote. Then it was actually 4 stars, so it was leaning more 3 to 4. But then, interestingly, 2 stars got 10.6% and 5 star got 7.4. So more people thought it was 2 star than 5 star. But definitely 3 to 4 was the range that got the most. I think I'd have to agree. Although I loved the queens this season, I do think the judging was weird. It felt a little bit lackluster in terms of the challenges. I do think they need to freshen up a lot of Drag Race because it's starting to get slightly predictable. So I think I probably would give it around a 3 to 4, maybe a 3.5 if I can be so bold, because it was fine, but I don't think it was as memorable as past seasons. But let me know in the comments what you think about that. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week. We'll start with my Patreon comments. And if you would like to get your comment featured and support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. I upload things like early access to my videos, but also the extended cuts of my Drag Race interviews. I just interviewed Nicole Page Brooks, which is already up on Patreon, but not on YouTube yet. So check that out and I'll put a link in the description. But we'll start with my Patreon, Lady Nidaria, who said, I don't think there was a world where I feel like Nene got robbed until she killed that lip sync. I kind of agree. I know we take track record into consideration, but I feel both of her performances were so good tonight. I agree. She won the night, but not the season. My Patreon Nikki said, I can't lie. I didn't want Nene in the finale. Not sure why. I mean, let me know. But if I said that she didn't eat up that finale, I would just be stupid. So anyway, congratulations, Myki, on winning Jane's season. And I think this has been quite a big topic. I'll get into this in a minute, but I think, unfortunately, because a lot of people felt Jane should have won, I do feel like Myki, through no fault of her own, is going to have her win slightly overshadowed. My patron Deb said, Nene won the lip sync, Myki won the season, and Darlene won my heart. I think that's a perfect summing up of this season in one sentence, so congratulations, Debs. And my Patreon Patty said, congratulations to Myki, she really deserved in the competition. Nene Coco, on the other hand, rocked the 2 final lip sync for me. Personally, I was very glad that Ross Matthews was not on the judging panel this time with his useless comments. Well, tell us what you really think, Patty. But again, I think this is quite a common theme about people thinking that Nene won the lip sync, but Myki won the season. And my Patreon Mess of Reps gave us all of their thoughts and said, boring finale lip sync to an albeit amazing song, but a snooze fest to a lackluster season. Here's hoping we get more drama and engaging storylines next season. Well, you're not wrong, although this is certainly fearless feedback. And my Patreon Emmy maybe slightly had a more critical view and said, this was one of the weirdest seasons decision-wise together with season 14. I think more because of the judging side. And moving on to the comments from the Have Your Say poll, someone said, I was so sad that Darlene wasn't in the final two, pleasantly shocked that Jane got Congeniality, fully expected it to be Darlene or Vita. I don't think Darlene would have been eligible because I think it's only the eliminated queens, not the top three, but I could be wrong. I loved this cast, but they got effed over by production badly. I would agree with that. Someone also again said Darlene should have won Miss Congeniality. I would agree with that, but I don't think that that's in the spirit of the competition in a way, although thinking about it, didn't Safira Cristal win Miss Congeniality on her season and she was final three? So, okay, well, maybe that's just throwing it all out the window. But yeah, I do agree. Darlene, to me, was the most congenial and the most lovable. But I think that personally, Miss Congeniality should only be the eliminated queens because I think it's a fairer way of giving them something. And then there were a lot of comments saying things like Nini Coco delivered one of the best finale performances of all time. I agree. I really wish they did the finale in a theatre like they used to, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I think we shouldn't forget Myki, so I wanted to include some of the comments about Myki. Someone said, Myki was my top pick from the beginning, but I feel like her win will always be shadowed by the fact that most people think Jane should have won. But I do want to say that's not okay, and I think Myki 100% deserved it. I love Myki, and it's not her fault that Jane got eliminated, so don't let that affect your feelings of how you feel about Myki winning, because that's nothing to do with Myki. If you have any problems, address your complaint to Miss RuPaul, because that's who makes the decisions. Also, I'd just like to say thank you for all of the lovely, amazing, positive comments that you left, not only on this one, but throughout the season. It's so nice to see that you enjoy these Have Your Say videos. I really enjoy making them. It's so nice to engage with the community. So thank you for all of the love and support you've given me over this season, but also all of the other seasons. It's so humbling and so lovely to have all of you amazing people here. So on to the next one, but thank you so much. And finally, we're going to talk a bit about Myki Meeks' response to the backlash about her winning, and Myki also spilled some backstage tea about how the finale was filmed. So as we know, there was a lot of uproar this season when Jane Don't was eliminated in episode 3 because she was the clear frontrunner, and many fans felt like this was rage bait. And this is evidenced by the fact that episode 13 has now become the lowest rated episode on IMDb in the history of the US franchise. I did also do an entire video about Jane's shocking elimination and the fanbase's response to it, which I'll link to in the description. Then, as we saw in the finale, Jane won Miss Congeniality, and even Jane seemed to be surprised by this. In fact, it's been revealed that the reason Jane and Juicy laughed when Jane won is because they had joked before the finale, saying how funny it would be if Jane won, and it seems that perhaps some queens then campaigned for Jane to win. I also saw that Athena Dion even tweeted saying that she tried to bribe other queens to vote for her for Miss Congeniality and said that she would split the prize money with them, but the queens still voted for Jane. But the fans' reaction to Jane winning Miss Congeniality was quite mixed. Some people seem to agree that it was kind of a consolation prize because they feel like Jane should have won the entire season. But other people who seemingly don't like Jane said that she was not congenial and didn't deserve it, and other people felt like Darlene should have won it instead. On top of that, there was a lot of chatter on social media after the finale, with people saying that Nini Coco had the best performance of the night and also beat Myki in the final lip sync, so the fact that Myki still won made it feel like it was all predetermined and rigged. But this then meant that when Myki won, although many fans felt like Myki did deserve the win out of the final 3, a lot of people still felt like Jane should have won overall, so Myki's win has become somewhat polarizing. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly where Myki talked about winning the season, she was asked if there was anything she wanted to say now that she is America's drag superstar. Myki said, quote, "I want to continue to inspire and gain the respect of those before me and create a platform for others to join in on because drag is fun. For those who spread continuous whatever online, B-word, lighten up, it's a drag show, have a good time, put a wig on, change your life." And in a different interview with Good Morning America, Myki was asked about how the intense fan base reaction affects her, and Myki said, quote, "It's easy to let it get to you, but what you realize is that online discourse is not the real sentiment." So it just seems a shame that Myki's win is being somewhat overshadowed by the fan base's negative reaction, because they feel like Jane should have won instead, even though this was totally outside of Myki's control. But as I always say in my videos, please do not send hate to anyone involved, and just remember that it's a TV show and it's not that serious. And finally, I also saw that recently, Myki spilled some interesting backstage tea about how the finale was filmed. As we all know, the Drag Race finales used to be filmed in large theatres with a big live audience. However, for the past 3 seasons, they've done the finales on the main stage with a much smaller audience. Although the reasons for this change have not been confirmed, some speculation is that it's either to do with things like budget, but another theory is that it's to avoid spoilers being leaked about the finale by having a smaller audience. And this theory may have some truth to it, because you may remember that back on season 15, there was a rumour that one of Anitra's backup dancers broke their leg during the finale, and a photo from the finale was then leaked online. Well, season 15 was the last season to have the finale in a theatre, because starting from season 16, that's when they moved the finale to the main stage instead. So perhaps the spoilers is part of the reason why it's now not in a theatre. One of the other main theories as to why they now don't film them in theatres as well is because it's easier to film multiple seasons at once on set, because RuPaul can stay on set to film. And this theory may also have some truth to it, because at a recent event, Myki revealed that not only was the season 18 finale filmed right after the season, which meant that Darlene knew that she did not make it to the top 2, but Myki also spilled a potential reason as to why the finales are now filmed on set.
The finale, because it's just budgeting, like it's just easier on set and production. If they can film us for our time, they bring in All-Stars, film their time, we come back and film our finale, All-Stars come back and films their finale. It's just because, you know, RuPaul is a busy woman, she goes all over the world, and it's just easier to have her in the set at that time. I mean, obviously we would love the theater finale, like that is just way more epic, but it is nice to know that, like, instead of, like, 17, the season before us, they had to wait a whole year before they did their finale, and they came back, and so imagine you make, like, top 4, right, and you have a whole year to find out who's the top 2. So, like, Sam and Lexi, they weren't in the top 2, so they waited a whole year anticipating that, whereas Darlene, she was able to already process that by the time the season started airing, you know. But yeah, a little insider tea. I wouldn't normally talk about that, but hey, check's already cleared, so very bad. And also, I will say, instead of waiting a whole year to do the finale, it's a nice time capsule of where we all were in 2025. Yeah.
And I just thought that this was some interesting tea, especially coming from someone who just won, because often these production details are kept under wraps and the queens aren't allowed to talk about it. But it also brings up the question of whether there are too many seasons of Drag Race now being filmed concurrently, and whether that is affecting the overall quality of them. And this is also highlighted by the fact that All Stars 11 was just announced, even though season 18 only just wrapped. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that the finales being filmed in theatres are better than on the main stage? Or do you think it's better to have smaller finales to avoid any spoilers being leaked? So there you go, there was the final Have Your Say for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18. So let me know in the comments what you thought of Season 18 overall. Did it live up to your expectations or not? And what do you hope for Season 19 and any future seasons that they'll take going forward? If you'd like to get early access to my videos, as well as many other benefits such as priority access to exclusive content, have your comments featured in my Have Your Say poll, as well as many other things, please check out my Patreon. It's a cheap way to support the channel and it really does go a long way, so check that out and I'll put a link to that in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to my amazing Patreon members. You've been such amazing supporters throughout not only this season, but some of you have been with me for absolutely years. Thank you all so much. It's honestly so amazing to have you here. I'm humbled every single day thinking about how amazing amazing you all are. So thank you from the bottom of my drag tea served heart. Please make sure you like and comment on these videos because it does help to boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please make sure you smash that subscribe button. I'd love to get some more subscribers, and I can only do that with your help. Thank you so much for joining, and although this season is over, I hope you'll join me for the next season for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye!